Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a romantic mystery film, The Illusionist. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. At a theater in the city of Vienna, Austria, 1889, the magician Eisenheim is totally focused on his performance on the stage. The audience is entirely overwhelmed by his magic show, and a lady even screams out loud when seeing a ghost appears out of nowhere at the corner. Right at that moment, the detective and his men, who are waiting at the theater, accuse Eisenheim of fraud and go to arrest him, which however causes an immediate uproar amongst the infuriated audience, who would rather believe the magician's innocence. After the arrest, the detective reports to the prince of the magician's background. Eisenheim was born a son to a carpenter in a poor family. Someday he encountered a mysterious magician, who showed him some incredible magics he never saw before. Eisenheim was amazed by the magic, and got obsessed. He then started his practices on his own, and tried to make them perfect. Not long after that, he happened to meet a young girl, Sophie, who's born in a wealthy family with powerful political ties, but was naive enough to get hooked by his magic tricks and his magnetic hormones as well. They fell in love with each other real soon. However, due to the huge difference in their family background, the two were forbidden from seeing each other and separated forcibly by Sophie's family. Sophia begged Eisenheim eagerly to make them both disappear with his magic power, but Eisenheim actually couldn't do anything but just witness his darling be taken away by the security guards. Heartbroken, and in regret of losing his hormone partner due to his incompetence, Eisenheim decided to study advanced magic skills elsewhere. He packed up, and later departed with nothing left but a heart-shaped locket, made by himself and sent to Sophie as a promise that he would return for her some years later and take her away. 15 years later, Eisenheim returns to the city Vienna, and brings the audience his best magic performances ever, in which he shows the entire growing process of an orange tree from a little seed, and the flying handkerchief carried by butterflies. The audience is significantly amused, and cheer for his excellency. The prince is also interested in Eisenheim's magic, and wants to see his show in person. The detective is sent to check the theater for the prince's safety. Backstage, the detective asks Eisenheim how he played the orange tree trick. Rather than tell him the real secret, Eisenheim just distracts the detective from that question with some tiny tricks. That night during the performance, the prince is happy to make his fiancée engaged in the magic show. Realizing that the fiancée is nobody else but his former hormone partner Sophie though, Eisenheim tries to stay calm and continues his performance, in which Sophie is covered in a long red robe before a large mirror. He tricks to kill Sophie's reflection, but her real body is shown unharmed. Astonished by the mysterious magic show, the prince invites Eisenheim to perform another show at the palace. Eisenheim feels happy to accept the invitation, and later learns that the prince is irritable and brutal towards his girls. A few days before his next show at the palace, Eisenheim receives a letter from Sophie, requesting a secret meeting with him, which however, is later discovered by the detective, who keeps close eyes on Sophie under the prince's orders. The detective warns Eisenheim immediately to keep his distance from Sophie. Eisenheim, however, gets upset by the warning, and replies that the detective just serves the cruel prince for his own political future only. During the performance at the palace, Eisenheim humiliates the prince before Sophie and other royal officials by recurring to the sword in the stone story, using the prince's jewel-featured sword. The prince ends up taking a long time to pull out the sword, and feels intensely embarrassed by that. In response, the prince orders to ban Eisenheim from performing any show in the city again. Later at night, Sophie finds Eisenheim secretly, and warns him that he could be in danger for his fooling the ruthless prince. However, being separated from each other for more than a decade, the hormone-thirsty two put everything aside and let go of their hormones. Fantastic, but fast. 2 minutes later, as expected, Sophie reveals that the prince is planning a coup d'état against his elderly father, and she does not want to marry the prince at all. As a promise made to her 15 years ago, Eisenheim decides to make a safe escape plan for him and Sophie. He cashes out all his money from his manager, and later has a quick meet-up with Sophie on the street, which however, has been spotted out by the detective, who later discovers their escape plan, and reports to the prince. Enraged and overwhelmed with jealousy, the prince challenges Sophie that night, and slaps her across the face, when hearing she's determined to cancel their engagement. As Sophie storms out to take her horse, the prince follows her to the stables. Moments later, however, a butler only hears Sophie's screams and witnesses she leaves the stable, lying slumped upon her horse. The next day, people search the woods for Sophie, but only find Sophie's body lying on a riverbank. The detective finds a ruby in Sophie's clothes while inspecting a cut wound on her neck, which is believed the cause of her death. Eisenheim sorrows for the death of his hormone partner and accuses the prince of the murder. The detective warns Eisenheim to watch his mouth before the truth is established. But the detective also can't get rid of his suspicion over the prince, despite the voluntary surrender of a suspect who claims to have committed the murder. Sometime later, Eisenheim buys a new theater and hires a group of workers to prepare for his new magic shows, which are featured with the summoning of spirits from the dead who can unbelievably interact with the audience below. They treat Eisenheim as god of magic, and some even believe the show is real. The detective changes his opinions on Eisenheim after seeing the show with his own eyes, but couldn't disobey the prince's order, and arrests Eisenheim under the excuse of fraud. Under pressure from the police, and in exchange for his own freedom, Eisenheim has to declare to all his faithful followers that his shows are just illusions and are not real. The prince, however, is certainly not pleased with that. Later, he decides to expose Eisenheim's tricks by disguising himself as an ordinary audience. However, Sophie's spirit is summoned this time, and her unspecified answers could implicate the prince's responsibility for her death. On his way back to the palace, the prince bursts into anger and claims the magician frames him. Enraged, then orders the detective to arrest the magician and execute him for some excuse. The detective, however, is unwilling to obey the prince's unjustifiable order anymore. He then finds the magician and tries to convince him to stop his show, but to no avail. Eisenheim gives all his money and property to his old manager before heading to his last performance. At the show, Eisenheim summons Sophie's spirit again, who claims to the audience that she lost her precious locket while she was killed, causing the audience to suspect the prince for the murder again and almost lose control. The detective rushes to the stage with his men and is about to take the magician. But they're shocked to find what's sitting there is not the real Eisenheim, but just his reflection. Soon the detective searches backstage for the real magician, but only finds a notebook titled Orange Tree with designs of Sophie's lost locket. Later, the detective finds the lost locket, as well as an emerald in the stables, where Sophie was last seen alive. With the ruby found from Sophie's clothes and the emerald from the stables, the detective later notices that they exactly come from the prince's sword. The detective accuses the prince of Sophie's murder. The prince is enraged and tries to kill him. But while learning that his conspiracy to seize the throne has been reported to the king, the prince shoots himself in the head, putting an end to his miserable life. Believing that the murder case is closed completely, the detective leaves with a locket. While walking on the street, the detective is given a big envelope, in which he finds the magician's orange tree show design. The next second, he notices the locket has been gone, and should have been taken by a hormone-smelly mustache guy, who jostled him on the street. He then follows the special smell and rushes all the way to the train platform, where he's too late to catch a leaving train that the mustache guy is supposed to board. With all those details borne in mind, the detective suddenly realizes the whole plan set up by the magician. It's revealed that Eisenheim took the jewels from the prince's sword on his performance at the palace, and intentionally let the prince know his secret meeting with Sophie, resulting in a perfect motivation for the prince to kill her. Besides that, he also asked Sophie to drug the prince before she set the murder scenes, and faked her death temporarily with some magic drug, making the poor prince even believe himself to be responsible for killing his fiancée while he's drunken as shit. Knowing the truth, the detective starts laughing hysterically. While on the other side, the magician, who played a smelly hormone trick with the detective earlier the day, arrives at a peaceful village, where he reunites with Sophie, and is ready to restore their hormonity in the open wild. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.